The New York Rangers have a third period meltdown and lose 4-3 to the Edmonton Oilers. Will this team ever have a strong shift immediately following a goal?
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 967 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So the Rangers, for the most part, everything was going well through the first 40 minutes last night. It wasn't perfect. Peter Laviolette talked after the game a little bit about how there was a little bit too much east and west in the Rangers game. And I thought there were a couple of those old school, for the Rangers anyway, those old hope plays that they used to go to every now and then where guys are just kind of throwing passes across the ice and, very little to no chance of completing the pass. And in many cases, turn the puck over, and then next thing you know, your opponent's going on a rush the opposite way. We saw that a few times in this game. In fact, basically all of the Oilers' goals, and keep in mind, they scored 4 goals in the span of about 6 or 7 minutes there. All 4 of their goals, or at least most of them, all came as the result of a rush, and in many cases, the Rangers turning over the puck in the offensive zone, and then the Oilers going the opposite way. And certainly this is not the team that you want to do that against. Unfortunate that that's what obviously the Rangers did, and that obviously ended up costing them dearly. But really just a really, really rough stretch in the third period, because again, first 2 periods were not perfect, but everything the Rangers were doing, you could live with it. Jonathan Quick obviously had his A game. We're going to give him some props a little bit later in this episode, even though he did suffer his first regulation loss. So there was that. The Rangers also, the power play was kind of hit or miss for the Rangers in this game. Obviously, you had Mika Zibanejad scoring on a power play late. It was a 6-on-4 situation when the Rangers had pulled their goalie, so they got a goal there. And the earlier power plays, a couple of opportunities here and there, but there were also some errant passes during the power plays and some issue gaining the blue line. There were a couple of chances where the Oilers actually went the other way while shorthanded and had some decent scoring opportunities. So again, very much a hit or miss night for the power play. I mean, they went 1 for 3, so the percentage is technically awesome, but obviously there's a lot more to it than that. And then they kind of got goalied a little bit. I thought Stuart Skinner played a heck of a game for the Oilers. It's been a while since we've seen the Rangers really just get kind of stonewalled by a fairly unheralded goalie. So, I mean, look, you play 82 games, it's going to happen sooner or later, but it had been a while. In the past, the Rangers, it felt like for seasons there, had made a habit out of just getting completely shut down by a goalie who either is not very good or in some cases maybe just, again, isn't really that heralded, just kind of getting started with his NHL career. And, Stuart Scott, not going to be up there as far as like the truly elite goalies in this league, but obviously he played like one in this game, take nothing away. The Rangers did outshoot the Oilers 34-28, but Skinner made 31 saves. And as I mentioned, some of them were excellent. The other thing that kind of hurt the Rangers here too is when Skinner was making these saves, because the Rangers were up 1-0 for quite some time in this game, and they had quite a few opportunities to make it 2-0, potentially even run away with the game. And Skinner made a couple of just ridiculous saves. There was one where the Rangers were on the power play. You had Panarin passing in deep to Kreider. Kreider then passing across the top of the crease to Mika Zibanejad. And just unbelievable save by Skinner, sliding to his right there. A goal there would have made it 2-0. Just was not meant to be. But the Rangers, of course, they go into the third period. Felt like they were still in the driver's seat. Obviously, still anybody's game. I mean, it's 1-0 at this point, and you got to play well if you're going to close this one out. Rangers did not do that, of course. And as far as their approach in the third period, it's kind of a fine line because, you're up 1-0. If you sit back and go into a shell, then we're going to get on them for, being a little too conservative and relying on your goalie to just be a magician out there and taking your foot off the gas. But if you do what they did here, I think you're going to find some fault with that too, because the Rangers, like I said, they were just kind of sloppy with the puck in the third period and a little bit too willing to basically just kind of trade rushes up and down the ice. And again, that's not really a formula for long-term success in general. I mean, you can win a game like that every now and then, sure, but you're playing a team like the Oilers, you've got to lead. I don't think that's the time to be doing that, especially when you consider that the Rangers had not been doing that really at all in the first couple of periods. I mean, there weren't really a ton of odd man rushes or any rushes at all for the Oilers into the Rangers zone. I thought the Rangers defended well. The Oilers had 5 shots on goal in the first couple of minutes there, but then the Rangers really shut them down for a good chunk of this game after that. I think the next like 20 minutes of play, the rest of the first period and then the start of the second period, the Rangers only gave up about 2 shots on goal. So they had everything working, and they just got away from that in the third period there. And even a timeout by Peter Laviolette didn't really seem to get the Rangers out of their funk there. But basically, again, we go to the third period here. Rangers are up 1-0, and they work the puck in deep to Hyman. Hyman had been robbed at least once or twice earlier in this game, but he roofs it here, makes it 1-1, about 3 minutes into the third period. And again, this goes back to what I was talking about. The Rangers had the puck in the attacking zone, and Mika Zibanejad just kind of lost control of it. The Oilers go the other way. McDavid rushed into the zone up the right side. Miller did a good job, kind of fending him off and meeting him there and not letting him, get toward the net. But McDavid passes to his left, and then you've got Hyman and Ekholm. Really nice give and go here. And just like that, the score is tied 1-1. And Jonathan Quick, by the way, on the shift that followed this, had to make another strong save to keep the game tied at 1-1. But it was short-lived because barely a minute after the Oilers tied the game, they take the lead and are on top for good at this point, 2-1. This is a minute and 10 seconds after they tied the game. They take the lead on a goal by Evander Kane. You get an offensive zone faceoff win for the Oilers. Kane gets to the puck and takes a shot. Quick makes the save, but Kane gets to his own rebound and puts it into the net. And I don't know. It felt like the Rangers could have done a little bit more here. Felt like they could have just kind of stuck their nose in there a little bit more. Kind of a rough moment for Braden Schneider too, I thought. On the initial shot by Patrick Kane. On the initial shot by Evander Kane, Schneider was close to the puck. The rebound kind of went by him. He had his stick down on the ice, and he tried to get to the puck and make a play on it and get it out of harm's way. Was not able to do so. The puck continues back to Kane, and then Kane, on his rebound opportunity, takes another shot. And this time, and this part you can't really blame Schneider for, because he's trying to make a play on the puck, but he got his stick on it, and I think that kind of deflected the puck a little bit, kind of messed with Quick just a little bit, and it gets by him, and it's 2-1 Oilers just like that. And even the initial play by Schneider here, where he was trying to get the rebound and missed it, not an easy play. I mean, you have to have cat-like reflexes here because Quick made the save and it went flying back out to Kane. And again, Schneider just not able to make the play there. But this is where the Rangers called a timeout. It looked like Peter Laviolette was challenging them. We've seen this work. We've seen a couple of times this season where the Rangers are either flat-footed or there was a game, who were they playing? The Sharks, where the Sharks were rallying late in the game. About 4 minutes left. Rangers up by a goal. Laviolette called the timeout, and the Rangers played well and closed out that win. But it just wasn't meant to be here after the timeout because a little more than 2 minutes after the Oilers make it 2-1, they make it 3-1. You get the Rangers going in on a rush, again with the rushes and, trading rushes back and forth. The Rangers get the puck away from Panarin. They go in the opposite direction. You got Foegele up the center of the ice, and he shoots and scores. This was with 13 minutes and 24 seconds to go in the third period. So 3 goals, basically quicker than you could blink. Just not enough resistance here by the Rangers either because, first of all, the turnover in the offensive zone, that's not ideal to begin with. But when Foegele went over the blue line here, it was basically 1-on-3. It was Foegele against Mika, Fox, and Lindgren. They were all there, and I just don't think they did enough to really slow him down, take the body, just kind of reaching for the puck. You just expect better from all 3 of these players in a situation like this. And, Foegele did have a couple of trailers. There was one Oiler on each side of him, but they were behind him, and I don't think Foegele ever once looked to pass. I don't think he even really knew where they were. And again, just kind of goes right up the center of the ice, gets into prime real estate despite having to go up against 3 Ranger defenders, and shoots and scores. And just like that, it's 3-1 in favor of the Oilers. And now a 4th goal by the Oilers. This is a little more than 3 minutes later, so we're doing a little bit better here. We're at least making the Oilers wait a little bit longer between goals here during this barrage that they had here. But K'Andre Miller cannot handle a pass from Jacob Trouba. Trouba passed across the blue line in the offensive zone. And once again, there are the Oilers going the opposite way on the rush. The save was made by Quick, and a nice play by Trouba because he was back. And Quick got a piece of the shot, the initial shot. The puck seemed to be kind of trickling toward the net, and Trouba initially got it out of there, but the puck wound up behind the Ranger net. The Oilers passed back in front, and this time McLeod scores from the doorstep. So at this point, your head is spinning. This goes from a 1-0 Ranger lead to a 4-1 deficit in less than half of the third period. We're less than halfway into the third period at this point. And again, 1 goal lead, now a 3 goal deficit. And just too much of a willingness by the Rangers to just start trading rushes. It just was not the time to do that, and this is not the opponent to do that against either. The funny thing, though, even as I say that I realize here is that you look at kind of like the big three on the Oilers, and it's, McDavid, it's Draisaitl, and it's Nugent-Hopkins. If you told me coming into this game that those three players for the Oilers would combine for a grand total of 1 assist, and it was McDavid's secondary assist on the first goal, I'd say, great, we're going to win. I'm feeling really good about our chances, especially when you consider how well the Rangers have played recently. But obviously, just wasn't meant to be. And it kind of reminded me of the game last year. It wasn't quite as bad, actually nowhere near as bad as the loss the Rangers had to the Oilers last year. Last season, there was a game in Madison Square Garden. Rangers were actually up 3-0 going into the third period, and the Oilers came back and won that game. And it was mostly, second or even like third tier kind of players on the Oilers, guys that really don't score that often. I think Draisaitl ended up getting the game-winning goal, but for the most part, it wasn't really him. It wasn't really McDavid. It wasn't really Nugent-Hopkins. It was, lesser-known players, smaller profile players, I guess you can say, that were leading the Oilers back. That game was a complete disaster. I wouldn't say that about this game. It was less than ideal how the Rangers played in the third period, but, obviously you're not going to win every game. Rangers, the big thing for me, and the thing that is driving me nuts, and you guys probably already know what I'm about to say, the everydayers, is that the Rangers just suck in the shift that follows a goal. It just happens way too often. And it's a difficult stat to quantify, but there's just too often where it's either the very next shift after a goal, the Rangers give up another goal, or if they had scored, they give up a goal right back to their opponent, or maybe not the exact next shift, but, within a minute and a half later, they're giving up a goal. They have to be better than that. And starting this game tonight, I'm going to try to start tracking which line is on the ice in the shift that follows a goal, because the Rangers absolutely must get better in that area. I don't really know how else to say it. I don't have a magic wand that I can wave. I don't have any magic solution here for it, but they just have to be sharper in the shift that follows a goal. So we'll keep an eye on that going forward, and hopefully that's a situation that they can correct. Gonna keep everything rolling in just a second here. I want to give some more well-deserved credit to Jonathan Quick. I know he had a tough stretch in the third period there, but I think that was more his defense failing him than anything else, and his turnaround has just been amazing. Made some amazing saves in this game as well. Going to get to that as well as the game against the Sabres tonight. We'll do all that fun stuff in just a second here, but first, definitely want to let everybody know today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. A player on your team, such as Artemi Panarin, could end up scoring 50 goals. The New York Rangers could hoist the Stanley Cup, and you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Panarin or Kreider or Mika or Igor will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in a given game. To win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Ranger fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper, so start paying attention and nail your picks so that you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL, and you will get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, we just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. And also want to mention that Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, so let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. I do want to give a shout out to Jonathan Quick. He's just had an unbelievable turnaround in his career. I mean, obviously, a lot of people kind of counted him out. Came into this game with a record of 9-0-1, goals against average of 208, and a save percentage of 922. And this loss is actually the first loss that he's had in regulation. And again, he had a rough stretch there in the third period. I mean, maybe you'd like to see him come up with at least 1 or 2 of those saves, but none of them were easy. None of them were soft goals. And really, I would say all 4 of them were the result of the Rangers, just not playing as sharp as they needed to play. Again, a lot of turnovers leading to rushes going in the opposite direction. And again, just a bizarre And I guess maybe the Oilers forced the issue a little bit, but just a bizarre third period there where it felt like that's kind of what the Rangers were almost looking to do or what they were content to do. Again, just was not the time of the game for that and not the opponent to do that either. But as far as Quick in this game, I mean, he was still a human highlight reel for at least the first two periods. I mentioned earlier, the Oilers got a bunch of shots on goal in the first couple of minutes. In fact, they had the first 5 shots on goal in this game. Some strong saves by Quick during that stretch. The Oilers then went about 10 minutes without a shot on goal. We get to the second period, and they were only up to 7 shots on goal about 5 minutes into the second period. In some ways, I've talked about this in the past. I think when a goalie has to go long chunks of time in the game, it doesn't really get a lot of action, and just a simple save here and there, and then they're still able to step on the gas and they're still able to make these excellent acrobatic saves even after that. That to me is all the more impressive. Sometimes that can make it even more impressive because obviously, if you have a game where you're facing a lot of shots, I mean, obviously that's difficult, but you're also getting into a rhythm. You're kind of feeling the flow of the game. So for Quick to basically just stand there, not have a whole lot to do for a big chunk in this game, but then makes just some unreal saves after that. Again, very, very impressive by Jonathan Quick. The second period in particular, there was a couple of saves here by Quick that I thought were just amazing. So basically, you had a situation here where the Rangers were on the power play and the Oilers were able to, get a rush while shorthanded, a centering pass to Brown, and Quick had to slide over to his left and fight it off to make the save there. Also in the second period, the Oilers ended up getting what were basically back-to-back power play opportunities. I mean, they had the one power play and then back to even strength for a very short amount of time. Then the Oilers go back to the power play. Quick made some good saves on the first of those 2 power plays for the Oilers, but he saved his best for the second one of those. You had a situation where, again, the Oilers are up a man here, and Quick makes a save 10 seconds into the power play for a stoppage. A nice save there. The Oilers also win the ensuing faceoff. They get it down low to Hyman. 2 straight point-blank saves by Jonathan Quick on Hyman. You've also got Goodrow going down to block a shot, so getting a little bit of help there from his teammate is Jonathan Quick. Bouchard had a one-timer, just a blistering shot. Quick was able to fight that one off as well. There was also a couple of second chance opportunities for the Oilers. McDavid had the puck in deep. Quick fought that one off. And then this might have been his best one. Just an awesome sliding save to his left to get a piece of a shot from Draisaitl and deny him as well. And for the time being, keep the Oilers off the scoreboard. And might have been the first time this happened all season. But as we know, every Ranger goalie needs like a good chant. We had obviously Henrik. We have Igor. We had Georgie. Did we get some Yarrow chance last year for Yaroslav Halak? I think we started to at a certain point, but I think this is the first time in the Garden that we've gotten some quickie chance. So that was pretty cool as well. And yeah, I mean, again, you just can't say enough about the job that Jonathan Quick has done this season. As far as I feel the need to kind of update this every now and then too. As far as like a goalie controversy, again, I don't think there is one. Like I said, Igor's still the guy around here. I think when it's playoff time, he'll certainly be in the crease every single night. And it's easy to forget because of just how well Jonathan Quick has played and how just kind of in awe we all are about it because, some of us were hopeful about Jonathan Quick, but nobody expected he'd play at the level that he has. But Igor, again, he's played very well himself recently. He went through that tough stretch, but in his last 2 games, he, of course, did a really nice job against the Bruins and the Leafs. Only allowed the 1 goal against the Bruins and then only allowed the 2 goals against the Leafs. I believe 21 of 22 saves against the Bruins and 31 of 33 saves against the Leafs. I put it in my notes somewhere and now I don't see it, but I'm almost positive that was the shot total for both of those games. So Igor played very well. Both those games were on the road as well, and both of them were Ranger wins. And obviously the Rangers playing a back-to-back. They're going to be playing the Sabres tonight. No reason not to believe that Igor will be the guy in net. I didn't see anything officially confirmed, but I mean, he's the starting goalie. It's the second game of back-to-back, and Jonathan Quick just played. Got to figure it's pretty much a slam dunk that it will be Igor Shesterkin against the Sabres a little bit later tonight. So speaking of that, we're actually going to talk a little bit about that matchup against the Sabres. Also want to talk a little bit about the Ranger rally in this game because even after giving up those 4 goals, they did fight back. They tried to get back into the game and just fell a little bit short. Also going to give some props to Will Cooley and Blake Wheeler. We'll get to all that fun stuff in just a second here. First, though, definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, what brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at all the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. All right, so Rangers going to be back in action a little bit later tonight at home against the Sabres at 7:30. That's one of the nice things about, you never want to lose, but I think maybe like the best time to lose, if there's any such thing, is the first game of a back-to-back, because I'm sure the players are hungry to get back out there and play a little bit better. And we as fans, we want to obviously see the Rangers get a win and basically just kind of erase that last game from our memory if at all possible. But again, yeah, Rangers going to be back in action at home against Buffalo tonight. Even after the loss last night, Rangers are still 22-8-1. For a little standings update here, we haven't done one of those in a while. The Rangers leading the Metro is now down to just 5 points over the second place Flyers, who continue to kind of surge their way up the standings. Although it is worth pointing out that the Rangers do have 2 games in hand against Philadelphia, so might be a little bit later than five, might be a little bit more than 5 points. Depending on what the Rangers do with those games in hand. But bottom line, one thing that really jumped off the page with the Sabres to me, and I thought this was the case, but when I looked it up, it was even more extreme than I thought. The Sabres are a very, very, very Jekyll and Hyde team this season. They are in second to last place in their division, but you got to listen to this. These are the Sabres' most recent 4 results, going from the least recent to the most recent. Their most recent 4 games that they have played. So they beat the defending Stanley Cup champion Knights in Vegas by a score of 5-2. Very impressive win there. They follow that up by losing in Arizona to the Coyotes by a score of 2-0. Coyotes are a little bit better this season than they've been in recent seasons, but still obviously a disappointing follow-up there for the Sabres. Then after that, they go home back to Buffalo, and they lose to the Blue Jackets 9-4. And then, even more recently, the most recent game that Buffalo has played, once again at home against the Maple Leafs, they beat them 9-3. So try to figure this out. None of it really makes any sense. Again, very much a Jekyll and Hyde team, but obviously a team that has proven that it can beat good teams in this league. The Rangers found that out firsthand in the second matchup that they had against Buffalo this season. Obviously, the Rangers won on opening night 5-1, but then the Sabres returned the favor in Madison Square Garden and defeated the Rangers by that same score of 5-1. The Sabres also beat the Bruins a little bit earlier this month. So again, it is a team that can go toe-to-toe with anybody and can also struggle against anybody. I mentioned, I think it was the Sabres earlier this season when the Rangers were playing them. I mentioned how, this team kind of reminds me of the Rangers from like 3 or 4 years ago, where they're very young, inexperienced, very much up and down, very much like playing roulette from one night to the next. You just never know what you're going to get. The Sabres are kind of that team right now, but obviously the Rangers cannot play down to the competition, or I don't even know if that's the appropriate saying, though, because the Sabres, again, it seems like more so than anything, they play up to the competition and they'll also maybe play down to it a little bit. But the Rangers obviously have to be sharp in this game because the Sabres have shown that they can be good teams. So the Rangers are going to have to bring it for sure. The other thing I wanted to point out here, too, it's not the end of the world if the Rangers lose this game, but there is a little bit of a break here. The entire NHL is going to have a 3-day holiday break. And the Rangers will be back in action on Wednesday, so 4 days from today. It's not the longest break that you'll ever see throughout the NHL schedule, but man, you don't want to go into that break, that holiday break, as a player or as a fan, having watched the Rangers lose 2 games in a row. So it is an important game. It'd be nice to see the Rangers obviously play well and get back in the win column. And, if they do that, I'm sure these players and everybody, they can enjoy the break that much more. So hopefully they come back out, they bring it tonight, and they, find a way to get 2 points. That's the name of the game. And Rangers have shown a tremendous knack for bouncing back from losses this year. And obviously that's a trend that we hope continues a little bit later tonight here. And obviously I also mentioned no starting goalies announced for either team, but gotta believe it will be Igor Shesterkin, who's had a lot of success against Buffalo thus far in his career. Shifting our attention back to the game that just concluded, though, I did want to give the Rangers a little bit of props. They had that disastrous stretch of play, 6 or 7 minutes there in the third period where they gave up 4 goals. Not too big on, the what's it called? The what kind of the technicality wins. The term for that is escaping me right now. Moral victories, I think that's what I'm looking for there. But it is worth pointing out that even after that rough stretch there, they did come back. They did keep fighting. They created some scoring opportunities. They got that power play and an empty net for a goal that was scored when it was 6-on-4. Mika Zibanejad scored on a scramble. You had Kreider redirecting the puck in front of the net. Lafreniere was on the doorstep. He was trying to stuff it into the net. Puck comes loose to Mika Zibanejad. Skinner tried to fall down on top of the puck, was not able to do it, and Mika knocked it into the net, and that made it 4-2. And then really just kind of a bizarre final 2 minutes of this game, because the final 2 minutes, the Rangers had the goalie pulled, obviously. You're down by 2 goals. You need to score. But basically the entire final 2 minutes occurred in the Rangers side of the ice, and the entire 2 minutes basically were just the Rangers throwing themselves in the way of pucks. But again, give them props for doing this, for doing everything they possibly could to prevent the Oilers from putting the puck into the empty net. The Oilers had a lot of good chances at it, a couple of scrambles in front of the net. Rangers just want to let it happen. You've got guys dropping down to the ice to block shots, and just fighting guys off and keeping their very, very small chances of victory alive. And then finally, the Rangers get the puck into the Edmonton zone, and the Oilers, they're trying to get the puck out of harm's way, and it comes to Cooley. Cooley knows that the clock is running out, and he just blasts away, and he scores with 0.1 seconds left to cut the Oiler lead to 4-3. But obviously, just kind of a weird situation, because instinctively as a Ranger fan, you're like, yeah, they scored, awesome. But you also know it doesn't matter. The game's over. But they showed the replay. He did indeed score with 0.1 seconds left. And I'm happy Cooley got this goal, because he's been cheated out of a couple of goals earlier this season due to replays and, just all that nonsense. So there have been a couple of goals reversed, or goals that didn't count that maybe should have counted. I think Cooley scored at least 1 or 2 of them. Probably would have had an assist on 1 or 2 of them as well. So maybe the hockey gods doing Will Cooley a favor there. But the other thing, too, I just want to throw this out there. Again, it doesn't really matter that much, but they score and there's 0.1 seconds left on the clock. Do they not have to then drop the puck at center ice for the ensuing faceoff? I realize it's impossible for the Rangers to score a goal in that situation with a 1/10 of a second left, but there's time left on the clock, so doesn't the puck need to drop? Maybe there's some rule that if the refs determine that it's impossible, they don't have to drop the puck. I'm not really sure. That's one of those rules that would only pop up every so often anyway. But regardless, just kind of a strange ending to the game. And obviously the Ranger rally falling a little bit short there, too little, too late. I was happy for Cooley, though, for all the reasons I just mentioned. And also, again, I continue to feel better and better about Blake Wheeler. I tweeted this out last night, but he's playing the best hockey that we've seen him play all season. His line, and of course, he's out there with Kreider and Mika. They had an excellent shift early in this game. And on this particular shift, Blake Wheeler was all over the ice. He was in the neutral zone stealing the puck and then quickly moving the puck forward to get a rush going in the opposite direction. So there was that. There was also, of course, the goal that he scored. You had Wheeler carrying the puck over the blue line on the right side, passes across the ice to the left side to Kreider. Kreider sends the puck in deep behind the net to Mika, and a great play by Mika here, redirecting the puck in front to Wheeler, and Wheeler scores from the doorstep. The look on Wheeler's face was hilarious after he scored the goal, and the fact that he's contributing now more recently, I feel like just watching him interact and watching his reaction to this goal, he just looks like somebody who a lot of weight has kind of been lifted from his shoulders, and I think that tends to happen when you start contributing, because the Raiders were winning earlier in the season, but Wheeler was doing basically nothing to contribute to it, and he's on this new team, and he's been in Winnipeg for more than a decade, and I'm sure he wants to get involved and help out a little bit, and impress the fan base, impress his new teammates and everything. It can be tough, but Wheeler obviously hung in there, stuck with it, and now becoming an important contributing member of this team. And we've talked about this. The Rangers' weakness to me is still right wing. I know that, if Heel's going to be out of the lineup for, however long he's going to be out, you could maybe look to center as well, because a lot of people aren't too keen on Nick Bonino centering the third line. And I agree. Bonino's a good player. He has his role, but he should be a fourth liner at this point in his career. Bottom line, you could make a case for center or right wing being the weakness. But if it is right wing, that just makes Blake Wheeler that much more important, because whether you think he should be a first-line player or not at this point in his career, that's where he's going to be for the time being. He's played well recently. He's caught fire a little bit, and he's going to be the guy. So, Wheeler can make that weakness not so much of a weakness if he continues to play well. A couple of other quick odds and ends here before we call it. Artemi Panarin coming into this game, a 13-game point streak at home. That's the longest such streak for the Rangers since Mark Messier in 1996, 1997. And sadly, that streak did come to an end in this one. Panarin did not have any points and was a -2. We'll give him a break because he's playing like an MVP. Also, this was an interesting stat that ended in a very unique way. So the Rangers coming into this game, 10-0-1 in one-goal games. First of all, that's outstanding and a very encouraging stat going forward. Obviously, the Rangers find a way to win tight games and come through in the clutch when they really need to. But that record now goes to 10-1-1. They suffer their first regulation one-goal loss of the season. And the thing that actually messed that up was that goal scored by Will Cooley with 0.1 seconds left. Obviously, you can't blame Cooley. He's trying to score a goal there, but that's kind of a funny way for that streak to end when you think about it. But bottom line, that's still an excellent record in one-goal games, and that's something that should, I think, be really encouraging to Ranger fans going forward, is the fact that this team, when they're in a tight, close game, they find a way to get it done. And even as a fan watching this team, it feels like when they're in a tight game, tied going into the third period, up a goal, down a goal going into the third, it feels like in some ways the Rangers have their opponent right where they want them. Obviously, this last game notwithstanding, but far more often than not, the Rangers have been at their best where they need to be at their best in a tight game late in the game in the third period. And, hopefully that's obviously a trend that keeps up as well. Also wanted to, say something about Chris Knoblauch here. Obviously, he's coaching the Oilers at this point as well. Apparently, he still stayed in touch with Johnny Brodzinski. Brodzinski was the captain of the Wolfpack when Knoblauch was there. And all the best to Chris Knoblauch. I'm going to keep rooting for him pretty much whenever they're not playing the Rangers. I don't really have a reason to root against him. And he apparently got, a welcome back message on the video board and a nice hand from the Ranger fans as well. So all the best to Chris Knoblauch. Glad that he got a head coaching job, not only out of division, but also out of conference. It's a little bit easier to root for him with that being the case. But with all that said, big happy holidays to everybody as well. And I figure we could pretty much call it there. But if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I'll see you next time.